Hi, I'm Harry from HAC Enterprise. In this video, we're going to discuss data entry into the AURORA TJet inventory tracking spreadsheet. By now, you would have previously viewed the overview of the spreadsheet, so we're going to go right into data entry. We're going to be using a spreadsheet that has some data in it, but we're going to put some more into it. So let's go to an area that is fairly free of data. Okay, let's start with Hot Rod, TJet Hot Rod Coupe, part number 1366. Now remember, this is set up in such a way where that data entry will be in those specific fields that can be edited. Otherwise, we're just going to jump right over them. As you can see, as I move the cursor left and right, it is skipping over the data that is not editable. Okay, so when we are going to be entering data for a specific item, what's very important to recognize is not only the part number and the title, but also which line item we're talking about. And that's where we're going to look at the color combination and the color sequence. Now, in the case of the Hot Rod Coupe, we know that it's simply the body and top and the interior color make up the color sequence, and therefore black red, for example, means black body and top, red interior. Blue black is blue body and top, black interior. Now, as we're putting this information in, you're going to see how simple it really is. Now, suppose we have an olive with black interior, and our intent is to keep it. I'm going to put the cap locks on just to be consistent with the data that I'm putting in, and I'm going to keep this item. I have one of them, and as I'm scrolling over, you'll see the very next item that is available to me is the estimated mint in box value, which is user definable. However, HAC has pre-populated these fields, and unless you have a better number to put in here, you really don't need to touch it. So the next line is whether or not I have the original box or original card. In this case, I'm going to say yes that I do. So I'm going to put a 1 in that field. Now the condition is on a scale of 1 to 10, which I had previously explained in another video. I do have the original box. However, it is not mint in the box, so I'm going to say that it is condition 8. Now, what did that do? You can see in the estimated value based on mint and box condition already defined $180 as what this item should be worth based on a mint and box value of $225 and the formulas that derive estimated value, which takes into account the condition table in a portion outside the normal field of view in the spreadsheet. Now suppose this was actually a condition 7 vehicle. Watch what happens to the 180 when I enter the 7. It went down to 169. And suppose it was a 9. It went up to 191. Now that's because it's all driven by formula and the matrix in the condition table that has been previously explained. Now we're going to put this at an 8, and it's $180. Alright, I just hit the right button and it brought me right back to a starting point, but now I'm at a different line item. Now I don't have that one, but let's say I have a red and tan one, and yes, I want to keep that. I've got one of those. I do not have the box, and it's a condition 7. System estimates it to be worth $68. Now, I glossed over the paid category, but I don't want to leave it out. What's important here is if you know how much you paid for an item, you should put it in there. Now, I've been tracking my amounts paid since the beginning of my collecting days, so in my spreadsheet I've got all this data filled in. If you don't know exactly what you paid for it, put some kind of a best guess in there. So let's say that I bought the olive black one for a number, and I bought it years ago. Let's say I paid $75 for it. So what ends up happening is the system will track, based on its estimated value, that I paid $75, so I'm actually $105 ahead on that particular item. Suppose the red and tan I also paid $75 for, but because it was a condition 7 and based on today's fair market values, that means that I'm about even, or just a couple of bucks behind, in this case $8 behind. I'm going to the right. Okay, I've got a turquoise black one, so I want to keep that one. I've got one of those, and I don't have the card, but it is in beautiful shape, and I'm going to say it's a condition 9, which is essentially mint without the box. Generates a value of 106, and let's say that I spent $75 for that one. Okay. A white and blue one. Suppose I don't have one of those, but I wish I had one of those. I'm just going to put a W in that field, and I'm not going to indicate that I own one, because I don't, and none of the other data is important at this point. Now, what this really means is that white-blue has a rarity factor of 0, which means it is very rare. It's amongst the most rare. And if I'm happy to, or if I'm lucky enough to get that one, I'll be delighted. Okay. Now, suppose, and this is where the power of the spreadsheet comes in handy. Suppose I have a keeper, and I've got one of them, but it is, even though it may be one of the ones in the known color combinations in the top, but it's something different. Suppose it's damaged or has repro chrome. I could say I have a green and black one with repro pipes, which does affect value. Now, I know that a green-black one would normally be a hard one, condition or rarity of a 2, because I'm reading that from just above, and it may have a book value of $150. But it isn't perfect because it's got repro parts on it, so I'll say that it is a condition 7. So it's worth $117, and suppose I paid $50 for that some time ago and a combination of the parts. So I've taken care of all of my hot rods, but now that I think about it, I would really like to get a gray one. So I'm going to put that as a wish as well. Okay, let's move on. Maserati. Fairly common car. Here are all the different color combinations that we know of at this particular point. And let's say that I have a keeper. I've got one of them, and that's blue. But I also have one that is blue and white. So I could say, yeah, I want to keep that one, and I got one of those. So now as I move over here, I will see that I've got NAs that automatically generated in these fields, and that's because I had entered data but did not complete all of the required data. Now the required data for sure is a condition code. We already have the pre-populated MIB value, which is also a required field. Now the condition code on my blue one is in excellent condition. I'm going to say that that's an 8. You see where the estimated value went up to $140, and it shows me as profit as $140. That's because I didn't put in any amount paid. Well, suppose I paid $100 for that car. Now I'm moving the arrow up and down here, so I'm staying within a particular block of area. But if I move left and right, it's going to bounce all over the place. So on the blue and white one, I've got one that's, it's probably got some not the best chrome and not the best stripe. So I'm going to say I've got a condition 7. And that I paid $60 for it. Whoops. See? This actually shows a problem with data entry, but the system stopped me. It's expecting a number from 1 to 10, and I put in 60, so therefore it says we have an error. So I can cancel that entry, it goes back to 8, and I can go to the correct field and put in for the that $60 price that I paid for the blue and white. Now I show that I am $71 ahead. Alright, moving along. I actually have a red Maserati with white stripe. Now another reason that because I'm comfortable with this spreadsheet, I can read across because of this designation between the different colors from line to line. It makes it a little bit easier for me to know exactly where I am. So I am going to keep this car, and I have one of them. I actually have the box, and this is a mint car. I'm going to say it's a 10. So a 10 equates to full fair market value, $85. That's where that came from, but it went through a formula process to generate that, and I paid $75 for it. So I'm a little bit ahead, but I don't care. I like the car. Now suppose I wanted a Snow White one. I'm going to make that a wish item. And that's it for Maseratis. I'll come down to the Ferrari 250 GTO. I've got a turquoise and black one. So I'm going to say yes, I'm going to keep it. And I've got one. I don't have the box, and it is a condition 7 car. And I paid $45 for it. Now let's use this user-defined field again. Suppose I have a Ferrari 250, and it's in my childhood collection that I've had it ever since I was a kid, so it has sentimental value to me. So I'm going to say yes, I'm going to keep it. And I've got one. But what's different about this is that it is cut and decaled. Owned since I was a kid. Doesn't have any particular value. I didn't indicate the color. I probably should put the color in here as well. So let's say that it is tan. And because I know what a tanned one is worth, roughly, based on the rarity, it's a 4 under normal conditions. I can put 4 here. You notice that it's in red. And under normal conditions, that would have a value of $70, because that's what is up here in the same block. But it is cut, and decal. So it has more value to me, but from a asset valuation as a potential sale item, it really does not have that much value. And I'm going to say that it's a 4. So it's got a $21 value. I don't know what I paid for it. Maybe it was a gift when I was a kid. Came in a set. So let's just say $1. Now, let's visit the condition table while we're here. Just for a quick review, condition codes 1 through 10, starting with a total wreck, will increasingly become in better and better condition until we're talking about mint with a box. And previously explained, even though these user-defined fields are pre-populated and probably shouldn't be changed unless you're very comfortable with making some of these changes, in essence, an excellent piece, relatively free of scratches and wear, and I had graded a couple of cars as 8, it would be 80% of what mint in box value would be. And then mint without the box would be 85%, and mint with box, of course, is worth what a mint in box piece is, 100%. Now you can change these numbers around, and if you change them, it will have an impact on car values. So, for example, if we decided that mint without box was actually now 80%, I could put that number in. And almost new was 75%, and minor wear was 70%, and left the other ones in place. What you would see is a change in some of the values. For example, we're up to $21,526 in asset value on 173 cars, or $124 a piece. And we have 19 boxes, an average condition of about 8, and the average paid per car around $72. And the total paid was $12,526 over time. Now let's come back over here to this table, and we'll arrange the data so that you can see when I make changes in the condition table what will happen to some of these values. Here's a couple of 8s here, so if we put this information back to where it was before, we should see changes in the valuations right here in the estimated values. So the almost new we had at 80%. And the mint without box, we had it at 85%. So you can see that changes took place. The Condition 8 vehicle that is on line item 9 is now worth $200. If I went back to this and made it 75%, you would see that that changes to $188. And the profit would change and so forth. So let's revert back to where we started. A Condition 8 car would be 80%. So we're back to $200 on that 8 vehicle. Back down to where we were, which was around the 250 GTO mark. Okay, let's say that I had a Lincoln Continental, a nice one. It's a keeper. I'm going to put the cap lock back on just to be consistent. It doesn't change the valuation at all, but I just want my data to look just as good as it is powerful. I have one of those. It's red. It's got an estimated value at book at $80. I have a no box, but it is like new with no box, so that's a Condition 9. It's worth $68, and I paid $50 for that item. Now suppose I had a turquoise one. It's a keeper. I've got one It's turquoise, a little bit more valuable. It is a condition 7 car. It's got some wear and some nicks and some chrome wear, and I paid, again, because I bought them in a bunch, $50 a piece. Okay, now we come down to some of the cooler cars. I've got a Ford AC Cobra. I would love to have a black one, so I'm going to put that on my wish list. I would love to have an olive one. I'll put that on my wish list. Yeah, good luck with that. But I do have one of my favorite ones, which is tan and brown. And in this case, let's say that I've got a tan and brown red. So I'm going to keep it. I've got one. It's a nice car. And let's say that I have the box, and it's actually a condition 8 car, and I got a real good deal on it. I bought it at a garage sale. Let's say that I paid $10 for it. You can see the numbers are starting to add up because they're changing at the top as well as each line item. Another one of my favorite combinations are the white and blues. So I ended up getting a white and blue AC Cobra. I really like that car. It's a fairly valuable car. It's in pretty decent shape. It's a 7. I don't have the box, and I paid $100 for it because I really like those cars, and it was more important to me to have it. So that takes care of that. Now I'm arrowing back, and let's say that I also have a yellow, brown, and tan, another nice, beautiful combination. Let's say that I've got a keeper. I've got one of them, and I don't have a box. It's in excellent condition, and again, I paid. Whoops! I hit the. These touchpads sometimes can be annoying. I have paid $100 for that one. Okay. That's it for that. You can see that if you go on here, you have the ability to put data in very quickly on all of these items. Now, you would have already been exposed to these drop-down filtering mechanisms, and let's say that I wanted to shorten some of this scrolling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm only going to be entering TJets. So I'm going to deselect everything, and I'm going to select TJets. And okay, so now I've got less data shown to the screen, and I didn't destroy anything. I am just masking the data so that I have less and less information. Now suppose I also, this is an indication that I've got a filter already placed here. Remember, a filtering block that has an arrow pointing down is an indication that there is no filter turned on, and the one with a cross in it is already having a filter to it. If I hover over it, you'll see what it is. Now suppose I also only wanted to see generation 4. You'll become used to what those are over here. When you hover over the chassis versions, it's right next to generation. A chassis with a generation 4 essentially is a TJet flamethrower. So now the only thing presented to the screen are these flamethrower TJets. Again, for some reason, Excel always grabs the last item in a filter of data. So, but there's no problem here because we're not destroying or adding data. We're just adding data at a line item basis. So now I'm showing just the flamethrowers, and I have very few items that I need to scroll through. So I have a black and white flamethrower. Just about everybody has those. So I'm going to keep it, and I've got one of them. I don't have the box, and it's in pretty nice shape. I'm going to say it's an 8, and I paid $25 for it. blue and white. Yeah, I'd like to see that one. But I do have a red and white, and it's one of my nice keepers. I've got one of those. I was fortunate enough to get that with a card, and that is also an excellent condition car worth an 8 condition code. Now, suppose I come down into the Ford GT flamethrowers, and let's just say that I've got a brown and white one. I'm going to say, yep, I'm going to keep, but I've got 2 of them. So I'm going to put a 2 in the field of how many I own. And they're both essentially the same condition. I'm going to say they're condition 8. They're both in nice shape. Now, because there's 2 of them, it's taking the market value and multiplying it by 2. So it's actually 2 vehicles worth $60 a piece. Now let's say that I spent $75 for the pair. So you can see that as you're putting the data in, it's actually pretty quick. If you had multiple people putting data in, it would be like somebody reading it to you and you just updating the numbers. Now, suppose I wanted to let's see. We'll go with all chassis, and let's go 8. Deselect, take 8. Now, that's the James Bond cars. Now you can see that I've already put data in here from a prior demonstration. I've got a keeper, and I also have a wish list. I've got a blue one, I'd like a red one, and I've got the same kind of thing here with the Mustang Fastback, where I have a red Fastback, and I'd really like a blue one as well. And let's say that fictitiously I'm a huge Bond fan, and here, fan, and here I am. I've put the data in already, condition 7, 6, and how much I paid for them, and we're done. So I'm going to select all, and I now have the entire spreadsheet back. And what has happened with the data? Well, I now have 182 cars, $23,351, an average of $128 per car. I've got 21 cars with the original boxes, and my average condition is right around 8, and according to all of my data, I paid around $71 a piece, just about $13,000 over the course of time. Now, you may not want to track how much you paid for it, but the spreadsheet will allow that to happen. It is very important to at least track what you currently have in inventory and what the fair market value is. Now, suppose you wanted to print this data off. What we ended up doing, let's open up the tabs. What we ended up doing here is we pre-configured reports. So I'm going to say File, Print. Now you have the ability to print to paper or print to a PDF file if you have a printer set up to your computer. Now this is the entire spreadsheet. There is 21 pages, and you can see here they all are. Now that's an awful lot of information to print off, isn't it? But you can if you wish. You can certainly print it to a PDF. If you haven't done that, that's a nice easy way to print off a digital copy of a report, and it's already been pre-configured to have all the information show up on the screen, and the top of the page will stay the same throughout no matter what page you're on, and it's essentially set up for a 3-ring binder in landscape position. Now suppose you didn't want to print that off. That's a lot of information. Suppose we wanted to just take what we got in our inventory as keepers. So I'm going to deselect everything and just say, show me what I have marked for keeps. Now when I go back to the file, print, I've only got 3 pages of report data. So it's configured exactly the same. And here's what that report would look like. And I could simply select a printer, whatever printer that might be, and hit print, and it will print out exactly what we have. And of course you can make it black and white if you want, but 3 pages colored like that's not going to break the bank. That's how easy it is to report what you have and put it in hard copy, which is just as important to have. You might want to give that to an insurance company if you've got your collection insured, or at least to have it as proof of what you have in your inventory as a family asset. So let's go back, and let's say we wanted to print off a wish list because we put a bunch of wish cars in there, and you're going to be going to a show. Now I've got all the items that I put in as a wish list. We know what the estimated book values are if it's mint because it's there. And if we said we wanted to print that, now we have a wish list, which nobody has to see, and nobody has to see what you think it's worth. But you can now have it with you and not have a problem with trying to find cars and not sure if you own them or not. And there they are. And you can print it off in hard copy and bring it with you. Very powerful tool. So there you go. Entering data into this spreadsheet is a snap. And before you know it, the daunting task of cataloging your inventory will be done, and you'll have peace of mind, and yourself and your family will be better protected, and hopefully, God forbid, the unlikely event of fire and theft or anything worse. So there you go. Again, I'm Harry from HAC Enterprise. You can reach me at hacenterprise@aol.com, and there are other videos that are available on YouTube, as well as some that came with your CD. So, happy slotting.